Hey, welcome friends, here we are. It is Chat with Matt. Today is the 3rd of July here in the Cook Islands, 4th of July. It's August, for freak's sake. It's the 3rd of August. I thought 4th of July, we've had that. It's the 4th of August back in New Zealand. It's the 3rd of August here in the Cook Islands. Welcome. Half an hour to chat with whatever's going on, whatever you guys want to know. I know I do have some inspiration to start this off because I read it earlier and I'm in the right group. There's my picture. 4 comments. It's interesting, I can only see 3 of them. Maybe one was deleted or hidden. You used to be able to see hidden comments, but not anymore. That's all changed. Anyway, let's start with what we've got here. We had a massive rainstorm here in Paradise last night, yesterday afternoon, and into this morning. So we've received a lot of rain, which I guess is good for the ground because it hadn't rained much in the last month. But yeah, everything's a little bit sort of close this morning. It's starting to brighten up now, but earlier on it was full on. There's some little chicks just behind me here, our little chicken friends with the babies. Where are we? Down here. They're eating some corn cobs that we've thrown out for them. We had a bit of a, that was just yesterday, wasn't it? The night before yesterday, Marie and I were going for a walk up our hill, as we do, and it was sort of quite late. It was like 6 o'clock at night and sunset's around 6:30, so we were sort of in a bit of a rush. And there was 2 little chicks on their own out on just next to the path. No sign of a mother anywhere. So one of us keeping an eye on them, the other one looking everywhere frantically for a mother. Of course, by that time of night, they've already sort of gone to bed for the night, and these 2 little chicks had been lost. So Marie and I are doing what we normally do. We scooped them up and brought them home wrapped in our t-shirt, and fed them up overnight, kept them in a box, and the next morning went out looking for the mother, and maybe saw her, but she was really very scared and keeping well away from us, and there was very little hope that we were going to be able to reintroduce these chicks back into her care. So brought them back home and tried something audacious and palmed them off to another mother who actually accepted them. So, which is not that brood there. We've actually got 3 broods of chicks here around the house. It's the other brood that's over there a little further. That poor hen now has 10 chicks under her command, because we've just introduced 2 others, 2 randoms that were pretty much exactly the same size as hers. So she's none the wiser, but we are trying to help her out with giving her some extra food, because trying to feed 10 hungry mouths is not easy. But anyway, so that was a good outcome, because the idea of leaving them out to die wasn't particularly appealing to us, nor was the idea of trying to look after them, as we've got a retreat starting in a couple of days, so that wasn't going to happen. No way we're hand feeding chicks for 3 weeks or so before they're ready to look after themselves. So yeah, that was good. Anyway, let's get on. I have found the questions that I had written in before. So Diana wrote in. She wrote in last week as well, but has asked for more clarification around instinct versus intuition. And she basically asked, I'm going to hit see more before I start, would you elaborate on whether instinct is a primal, automatic animal programming versus intuition being one particular moment message from higher power, which we could put in inverted commas, or other facets about it? Thanks. Yeah, so the short answer is yes. Our instincts are much more primal. I think I mentioned that last week when I was talking about it, but I can't remember. Much more primal, basically centered in the solar plexus, in the gut, much more working with our more ancient brain. You could call it the reptilian brain, but I don't like using that term because it conjures up other images for some people who are into the extraterrestrial type thing, and then there's other people who think of reptilian more as a origin of soul. Again, different labels having different meanings for different people. So reptilian is one of those words that can be quite confusing. So, but anyway, the lower part of the brain that responds to danger very quickly, instantaneously, you might say, but that would be an exaggeration. So our gut instincts quite often are to look up at the right moment, and thus to avoid something dangerous, or to know that there's there's something not right, or something life-threatening, or some sort about a particular situation. So it's our instinct is our ability to read the energy of a situation, of a moment in time, without having the sensory backup. So we know there's danger there, even though we can't see there's danger at that particular moment. Or we hear a sound and we instantaneously know that it's a dangerous sound, even though it hasn't registered through our conscious mind of why it's dangerous and what potentially it means. That's our instinct, right? Our instincts keep us safe in this way by basically reading the energy of the situation or the environment, and thus making very quick decisions to take action in a way designed to prolong our life, to keep us safe. Whereas intuition is a deeper read of energy, which you could call guidance, but not necessarily guidance from another separate individuation of God, source, universe. It can be coming very much from ourself, but it's coming more through our heart, and it's more to do with generally stepping into the joy of what's available to us. Our intuition guides us towards our best outcomes, which of course primarily is surviving, but beyond that, right? Our instincts don't necessarily lead us to the greatest expression of ourselves. Our instincts are much more likely to keep us safe, and of course our instincts finds food and water and shelter, right? Our instincts very much can lead us in that direction, but our intuition is a more, they're both loving, but is more heart-based guidance as to what would really satisfy our soul's desire to express ourselves as an expansive being on this playground, this planet. So hopefully that clarifies a little bit more, Diana, the question of instinct versus intuition. Ultimately, it doesn't really matter. Both are very, very valid feelings, and we don't really need to identify what's an intuition and what's an instinct, as long as we're willing to follow both of them as best we can, and not to get too caught up in trying to justify, validate, understand, mentalize these opportunities to be guided by the energy of the situation, rather than just guided by the intellectual analysis of the information of a situation, right? We take in the information sensorily through our senses, and then we process and analyze it, match it to the data that we carry from our memories to make a decision or a judgment around what actions we could take given the situation. Hey Jane, hey Carolyn. Someone else popped on and it was Jane. Yeah, awesome. Completely lost myself. But yeah, instinct and intuition is basically not to get too caught up in that analysis. Not that the analysis is wrong, it's just that we have to be willing to go beyond it and trust these feelings to do things, even when we don't have all of the intellect and the analysis to back up the why. Hey Jill. Good morning, Carolyn. So yeah, being willing to act based on the instinct and the intuition, despite the fact that we don't have the information to satisfy the mental doubts and the insecurities of I'm not sure, I don't know why. Oh, I'm feeling to do this, but I don't know why, and therefore I'm not willing to do it because I want to know why before I do it, right? I want some level of assurance that this is the right thing to do, as opposed to just trusting that it feels like the best thing to do, you know, the most beneficial thing to do, even though we're not sure that it's right. So yeah, great question. I can talk about that for you know, again and again. It's very valid information for those of us who are choosing to you know, move from the head to the heart and to lead the way in this global transformation into a more loving society. Sister Julie Ray asked, could we talk more about trust and following visions which feel to be falling apart, right? How to know when a plan needs to be abandoned or when to keep navigating the plan. How to know if forcing, try and hit see more, if forcing too much doing when happenings are within time frames, and how to create space for flow and receiving. How to focus and follow vision. How to focus on and follow vision. Yeah, when unsure what to do next. So this kind of fits into what we were just saying, right? How do we trust what we've been inspired or with that through our intuition to step towards when we can't see how it's going to work, and in fact we're getting information that it's falling apart. And many times we have to understand that our intuitive visioning of how to move forward is interpreted by our intellect based on images that we already have stored in our subconscious. So we put images to a vision based on our prior understanding or our prior experiences. It's very hard to have a vision of something that is beyond what we can conceptualize, and we can only conceptualize what we've been exposed to with this human faculty, right? This human consciousness mind. Of course, we all have had, or most of us have had, experiences in that beyond, meditative experiences or lucid experiences, dreaming experiences, which stretch us to what we can conceptualize, but they're always somehow held back by what is conceptually possible in our mentality. So the point which I'm saying is we are judging that the vision is falling apart based on a vision that might not be as expansive or as, we use the word true, as it might have been. A lot of our intuition speaks to us in imagery which might not be the exact or the most appropriate imagery, but it was what was available in terms of how we could put a picture to the vibration that we were feeling. We're intuitively feeling a vibration. Mentally, we put a picture on that to help us, right? To interpret the feeling, to give us some rudder to steer towards it, right? And then we make a plan around that vision, right? We see the vision and then we start thinking, well, how can I achieve that, right? What do I need to do? Oh, this is telling me that I need to drive west, or this is telling me that I need to stop and rest, or this is telling me that because we're interpreting, we're doing our best to interpret the vibration that we're intuitively receiving. This process is always flawed to some degree, I believe we get better at this interpretive process as we relax into it, as we soften the desire for absoluteness, because we always want to know what does it mean, and we think that what does it mean is some very concise, conclusory abstract of a vibration that we've received, which of course is always going to be limited. So the more that we can stay loose and trust that if we can just go with the vibration of what we're intuitively feeling, which is a very hard thing for our mind to do, let's face it, because we love the concreteness of thinking we understand. But if the more that we can trust that we never do understand fully, the more that we can be loose with this idea that we can still maintain our trust that we're being guided intuitively, even though the plan seems to be falling apart. The vision doesn't seem to be coming true, despite our best efforts, right? We're applying effort to achieve what we feel we're being intuitively guided towards. And the truth is we can never be sure that we're interpreting our intuition exactly. And then you might say, well, what's the point of having an intuitive guidance if we can't interpret it? It's to come back to a deeper level of trust that our intention is to move towards it, even though we don't even know what it looks like in the completion, if there was such a thing as completion. So this is why we're talking about moving from our head into our heart, because we're moving into a completely different way of operating. Of course, the head's not going to cease to be valid. It's still very much valid that we, intellectualize and make plans. But what we're moving out of is the absoluteness of those plans and those visions and those limited understandings that our intellects draw, and into a more open space where we trust more the energy, trust more the intent, trust more the heart of the matter, and trust that the thinking of it will continue to evolve, that the plan will continually need to be modified, that the plan will continually evolve. Yeah, is this what business world calls blue sky thinking? I think so. I'm not particularly au fait with the exact. I've heard, of course, the term blue sky thinking, and I'm not exactly sure, as someone who doesn't really move in the business world, what they're exactly interpreting. But the idea that the blue sky is without limit, it just keeps going, it graduates out, and it's not in the box. So yeah, blue sky thinking is this concept of thinking beyond the limitations, being willing to invest some time, some effort, some resource into holding open a space that we can move into outcomes that are beyond our ability to even conceptualize fully at this stage, right? And well beyond our ability to work out how at this stage. And the why is more or less, well, because it's available, right? Because it feels expansive. Why would business want to go in that direction? Because we're all being inspired at this stage to step beyond our limitations, all of us. Of course, some people are not heeding that inspiration and are wanting to stay in the safe and the predictable, and wanting to maintain their business model in a way that they are relatively sure is going to generate a profit because it did last year. So why change what's not broken? If it ain't broke, don't fix it mentality. But more and more of us are being inspired to step beyond, to stay more than one step ahead of the curve, so to speak, and to move into the potential that something much greater is available, that we can take quantum steps beyond slow progressive evolution into much more expansive opportunity, right? This blue sky thinking. What if we hold a vision for this potential, even though we don't really have a concept of how we could achieve that or what it would really look like in the marketplace at this stage. If we start dreaming of it, right? If we can dream it, then it exists somewhere. That's basically written of in the Vedas, right? In very ancient Sanskrit texts, dating back at least 5,000 years. There's this understanding that if it's showing up in your dreams, then it already exists and it's already available to us to manifest, right? If we can dream it, we can manifest it, because there's a blueprint for it. There's a potential for it. There's a vision of it. And so blue sky thinking is basically choosing to dare to dream bigger than what seems practical, logical, available. And that's where we're going, right? That's where we're going as a collective, and in the repercussion of that, as much of the structure that has been built around solidity, stability, security is having to fall apart to allow us to quantum step into much more expansive potential and opportunity, right? Because we simply can't go there and maintain the old structures that we've used through this era of, this shadow masculine authoritarian control, this very mental way of doing the world through a dark period, a dense period of time, energetic space on this planet. Those old ways of survival and maintaining structure and order are having to disintegrate so that we can develop much more fluid ways of working in the world, So how to know when a plan needs to be abandoned or when to keep navigating? We just have to trust, right? There's no surefire sign that, this plan needs to be this plan needs to be abandoned. I think we should always be willing to hold the space open that the plan isn't working for us, that any plan is holding us back. And that's not to let go of the outcome that we're planning to achieve, but it's to let go of the rigidity of any particular plan. In that's the way that we're going to get there, and to always be willing to consider that the plan is limited and that maybe I don't need to hang on to it so rigidly. Holding open the question, how else could I achieve what I'm attempting to achieve here that's beyond my current plan, that's beyond my current concept of how? Can I dig in a little bit deeper? Jill wrote, it's like the sky isn't really blue, but we interpret looking into space as being blue. This is a great opportunity to discuss what colour really is. Is this really yellow? Or is it gold? Does it matter if I call this yellow or gold? Are you seeing this exact same shade that I'm seeing? Is your brain interpreting the retinal excitement, right? The vibration that's hitting the back of our retina and projecting an image in your consciousness the same as it's doing in mine? We've both been trained to call that colour yellow or gold. But is it? What is a colour? A colour is basically the vibration of light that's reflected from a surface. So colour is more a representation of a texture in many ways. It's more representative of the ability for it to scatter vibration. What vibrations are scattered from certain images for certain objects give us a representation of colour that we identify. We already know that some people do represent colours differently. They are what we call colour blind. They're not really blind, they just interpret colour in a different way. Maybe not as vividly, but maybe they see things that others can't. They're certainly outside of what we call normal, right? These people who are colour blind. But really, we, interpret all of this stuff based on normalities and statistics, and I think, we try and put things in boxes a lot. And the fact that the sky looks blue, and we call that colour blue, is neither here nor there. The sky can certainly be attractive. in many ways. Awe-inspiring, exciting. I think the sky can definitely inspire us to rise and to embrace life. We look out to the sky, whether it be a sunset, a sunrise, a blue sky, a gloomy sky, an angry sky, a messy sky. The sky is one of these parts of our life that play an important role, I think. I think, you know, I definitely know how detrimental it is to not see the sky for long periods of time. You know, I also find a lot of solace in being near the ocean and other great bodies of water. I also recognise the advantage of being near vegetation and various other life forms. I recognise the advantage of being close to other animals and other species and other life forms in all sorts as inspiration and as community and collaboration, and just to put things in perspective and to remember how diverse and how rich this whole experience of being on Earth is. I probably should get back to Julie's question. As I've gone off on one for a change, I just noticed the time, our half hour is ripping through. How to know if forcing too much doing, and how to create space for flowing and receiving. These are all, I would encourage you, Julie, and everyone else, to let go of trying to know these things and to hold an intention to trust yourself in doing these things. Hold open a space where you choose not to force too much doing. That might look like just, you know, journaling in the morning or reading through some affirmations. Oh my God, the goats are here. They're not supposed to be here, they're out. I don't know if you can see that nanny goat there, but back against the fence. And there's a kid. I should really be up chasing them off the property because they come on here and eat our landlord's plants. Just talking about, I love goats, but they are very naughty. And they're supposed to be over the road in an electric fenced area, but they have got out. Oh my God, I'm just looking at one eating the hedge. Anyway, I'm going to finish this. This is not so important for me to go chasing the goats. It's not really my concern. Sometimes we have to know, you know, where our duties really lie. Good on the goats for experiencing their freedom, but I recognise my landlady's desire not to have her plants eaten away, and I recognise the plants here trying to establish a nice environment and not wanting to be eaten by the goats. So interesting juxtaposition of contrasting desires, right? Contradicting desires by various beings, all choosing to interplay and interrelate here on this in this experience. They're very naughty goats. Anyway, my friends, so Julie and everyone, you know, basically trust comes back to holding an intention and trusting that we don't need to work out why and how, and what it comes back to is not judging ourselves in hindsight that we're failing, you know, not to try too hard to think that the plan is failing or the plan's not going to get us to our outcome. Trust in the outcome and trust that timeframes may not be exactly as we desire. I know personally that Julie is, you know, in a rather sticky and convoluted situation, which I'm not going to allude too much into, but for all of us, you know, how to create space for flowing and receiving is just to consistently bring that into our intent, and as much as possible to relax. And that means maintaining practices that facilitate relaxation, choosing to consciously breathe deep and let go of the stressors that are creating contraction and thus robbing us of our ability to receive intuitive guidance, instinctual guidance, and help in all forms, right? When we get stressed, we close ourselves down and get very protective and defensive, And unfortunately, that limits a lot of our options to moving forward into the best outcomes. So the more that we can relax and stay open, which involves having to be willing to trust life, not so much trust that we know what we're doing. We can't trust that we know what we're doing because it's plainly obvious that we don't. Right? I'm very, very aware that I don't know what I'm doing, that I can't organise jack shit most of the time in the way that I want to. I can't control how life is unfolding. I just can't. The more that I can accept that and still be willing to trust that life is unfolding in beautiful ways, the happier I am. But it's not easy, because life has trained us that we need to be able to control things, we need to be able to predict things in order to stay safe, in order to maintain our survival, in order to have the outcomes that we think we should have, right? But when we relax into knowing that I really don't know what my best outcome is, but I've got a sense of what it feels like, and I'm holding an intentional space that I keep stepping towards that vibration, then it will be so. Is that easy? No, not at all. It's going to invoke all sorts of fears and doubts and mental anguishes as we struggle through this process of maintaining our trust and being able to focus on and follow our vision without making our vision too boxed in and limited. You know, our vision is an energetic space of joy and freedom. That's what our vision is, and purpose. And yet we don't know what's going to be purposeful in the next moment. But if we're choosing for the next moment to be purposeful, then we'll find the purpose in it. Choice to find purpose in the moments, choice to find joy in the moments, choice to find the vision in the moment, rather than trying to match the moment to the vision that we're holding from the past. The vision was created in the past, and if we hold on to it too tightly and keep trying to fit our current reality into our vision that we formulated in the past, thinking that it's a vision of the future, but it's basically a vision of the future that was formulated in the past based on information we had in the past, that's where we sort of fall down. So the more that we can be loose with our visions and still honour them, that's hard, right? How do we honour the vision and be loose with it? This is where we're going, out of this mental construct of rigidity and into a much more flowing space. It's an ongoing practice, and practices take practice, and practices also require us to make mistakes, to hit the wrong note. Because if you're not willing to make a mistake, then you can't really practice something, right? You can't practice the piano without being willing to hit a wrong note. It's not practice if you're trying to control it to the nth degree and only play things that you know you can do perfectly. That's not practice. That's not going to facilitate improvement. So improvement comes through making mistakes. So we have to be willing. We have to be willing to keep stepping up to the mark. Keep stepping up. Keep picking up the bat and entering the box, right? And having another ball hurled in our direction. There is the potential that we get hit. There's the potential that we swing the bat and miss. There's the potential that we hit the ball and it goes to the wrong direction and someone catches it. There's all sorts of potentials that the situation doesn't play out the way that we think is ideal in our mind, but we still must be willing to pick up the bat and step up to the plate. Otherwise, we're never going to improve in our ability. We're just going to stay on the sidelines, right? So, my friends, that's pretty much it. I'm sure that I've 33 minutes of chat with Matt. Hopefully that has helped. I'll be back next week. Might be difficult because I'll be on retreat, facilitating a retreat. So I'm not quite sure about next week, but we'll definitely be here the week after. So if I don't show up next week, don't be concerned. We do have a retreat starting in 2 days' time, running for a week. I will enjoy my day. Thank you, Jane. And I better encourage these goats to go back to where they are from. And I've got plenty else to do because I took last week off with the kids pretty much, and have got the retreat coming up, so have blocked out a whole heap of time. I've been fitting in quite a few private sessions and other work in these intermediary days, so I'm quite busy with it all. which is okay. Busy's okay. Gives a nice contrast to relaxing in paradise. To being busy and relaxed in paradise is also valid. Now the rooster's running past. The animals have all gone mad. Anyway, my friends, much love to you all. I will speak to you again soon. Holding space. Yes, so Lionsgate is coming up. New Moon is coming up. As I said, I am going to be on retreat. I am dancing with the idea that I'll do the session very early in the morning, which is when the new moon is exact. It'll be 4 a.m. my time. I haven't broached that subject with Marie yet, whether she wants to be awoken at that time for me to do a session in our room, considering we are busy on retreat with a lot of people and 20 odd people under our care. Rest is important as well. So dancing with those potentials. I'm not sure which way I'll go yet. Still looking for guidance as to what is the most beneficial for all concerned, including myself, with that potential. But either way, we are definitely holding space for you to have a great Lionsgate 8/8 gate, and it is coinciding with the new moon this year, which is also exciting, so we can all begin a new cycle in abundance. Yeah, holding space for all of that. Whether I turn up and do a light language session or not, I am not sure yet. I may pre-record it at a time when I have available and broadcast it at the appropriate time as well. That is an option that I have up my sleeve. So let us see which way we choose to go with that. Waiting for more guidance on the matter. Anyway, friends, much love to you all. I will speak to you soonish. Bye for now. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, you can always reach out. Don't worry if I'm busy or not. I look after those sorts of things. You just reach out if you feel to. Bye for now.